And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Today's sea ice analysis showing ice edge continuing to come southward and southwestward slowly, now south of St. Matthew Island there, and starting to close in, but still quite a ways away from St. Paul Island. And this will continue, the pattern will continue here for the next couple of days, especially here in Bristol Bay. While Cook Inlet, ice conditions kind of holding a stationary status quo. And for tonight, weak front brings another increasing chance of moisture to the panhandle. Trough remnants of a low center here brings chance of snow later tonight and across Kenai Peninsula from Prince William Sound, Copper River Basin, the Manuska Valley, Cook Inlet, southern Susitna Valley, northeastward into the interior. Dry and very cold out to the west and to the north into the Bering Sea. System sliding just south of the Aleutians there brings rain or snow. Tadak and Atka in toward Nikolsky, showers back to the west. And then tomorrow, cold air continuing to push this front to the south. A weak warm front produces some light precipitation for the western Aleutians, otherwise colder but sunny here over the western part of the state. Cloudier and chance of some snow over the east side, better chance along the North Gulf Coast, and that front right along the panhandle, coast of the panhandle there keeps a chance of rain or snow going in that area, mostly from Juneau southward on the inside water areas. And then for Monday, another system down here brings a chance of rain to the southern southeast coast. Low pressure holds here in the Gulf of Alaska, actually redevelops a little bit on Monday. And that'll keep a chance of snow south central Alaska, mostly Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, and the North Gulf Coast. And a lesser chance for the Susitna and Manuska Valley, as well as a little bit drier now for the eastern interior. Still cold though, and mostly clear out here to the west and the north. And another system brings increasing wind, rain, and snow to the central Aleutians. Coastal water forecast for the south coast of the Panhandle tomorrow. Southeast winds 25 knots. East-southeast 25 to 30 knots on the central coast. North coast east-northeast 15 to 25. Lynn Canal, north winds at 20. And north at 15 for Stevens Passage, southeast 15 for Clarence Strait. And then for Clarence Strait on Monday, small craft advisories, southeast winds 25 knots, seas up to 12 feet. Stevens Passage, southeast 15 and 20 knots out of the southeast for Lynn Canal. South coast here windier, southeast winds 35 knots with gusts of 45 knots. Central coast east 20 to 25 and the north coast east winds at 20 knots. Northern Cook Inlet, north winds 10 knots, south of Forelands, north at 20. Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands, northwest winds 25 knots, east at 15 for the western North Gulf Coast. Small craft advisories though for Prince William Sound, east winds at 25 knots and southeast winds 20 to 25 knots for the eastern North Gulf Coast. And for Monday, eastern North Gulf Coast here, east winds 20 knots, northeast winds 15 knots for Prince William Sound. Continue down into the western North Gulf Coast. And gale warnings, Kamishak Bay northwest at 35 knots, seas 12 feet, Barren Islands northwest at 30, and Cook Inlet north winds 10 to 20 knots. Kodiak Island for tomorrow, northwest winds at 20 knots, north at 20 for the Bristol Bay area, and north to northeast winds 20 to 30 knots for the Alaska Peninsula. Monday, Kodiak Island, small craft advisories, northwesterlies 25 to 30 knots, a few higher gusts. And the Alaska Peninsula here, north to northwest 20 to 30 knots, and north at 20 for Bristol Bay. Eastern Aleutians, Adak and Atka, all northeast 25 or 30 knots with seas around 8 to 15 feet. And for the western Aleutians here, southwest winds at 20 knots. And then for Monday, from Kiska to Shimia, east to north winds at 15, pretty light there, but Amchitka Island, east 30 to 35 knots. That extends all the way to Atka. And for the eastern Aleutians, east-northeast winds 25 to 30 knots. And for the southwest coast on Sunday, north winds 20 to 30 knots. North winds at 20 for St. Lawrence Island, 25 knot north winds for Norton Sound, and northeast 25 for St. Paul, St. George, and St. Matthew Islands. For Monday, Perbilofs northeast at 20, St. Matthew Island northeast at 20, and for the Yukon Delta coast, St. Lawrence Island and Norton Sound north at 15, Kuskokwim Delta coastline, though, still carrying small craft advisories for north winds at 25 knots. Eastern Beaufort Seacoast tomorrow, west winds at 15 knots, west at 10 for the central coast, western coast here, east-northeast 10 to 20, and the Chukchi Sea, north winds at 20 knots. And for Monday, Chukchi Sea, north 15 to 20 knots, western North Gulf Coast, east-northeast 10 to 15 knots, southwest at 10 for the central coast. On the east side, look for winds pretty light, though, west at 10 knots.